For this video, we're going to talk about some different vocabulary you might need, but also take a look at how you can notice angles on a protractor. All right, first things first. Now, you actually can't see this whole worksheet, but if I slip it up here, there's a word bank. We used to do this one in class in years past. We'd use this word bank down here, and I would tell everybody, hey, each answer is only used once. So once they use one, they would kind of cross it out. So I'll kind of be marking these once we use them. But that's kind of where I'm getting my answers from, is down here. Okay, so going back up here at the top. It says, the first one here, the figure formed by two rays from the same endpoint is and. Sometimes I used to actually tell my students, kind of give them a little advantage on this worksheet. This kind of connects in with your ELA class a little bit here. If you see the word and, the following word that comes after that has to be a word that starts with a vowel. Let's start with an A, E, I, O, or U. So, for example, I have a lot of people put like is and, and they put like vertex or something like that in this blank. I'd say, hey, vertex starts with a V. That's not a vowel. So you know it has to start with something that would be a vowel for this next word right here. So when they would do this problem on their own, they come right here and look at this word bank down here, and they say, okay, well, it could be obtuse, it could be angle, it could be acute. That's pretty much the only choices they had that started with a vowel. So you come back up here. Now, if it starts with you see the letter A in front of it, that means it can't be a vowel after it. It has to be a consonant that starts with that next word there. So just something, like I said, not necessarily math related, but it's something you kind of use to help you get these answers if you were working in class without my assistance. All right, so once again, the figure formed by two rays from the same endpoint is and. That's going to be angle. So I'll pop that in there. So once again, that's going to be two rays that are coming together at the same endpoint. We'll talk about what the endpoint is here in a second, but that's a definition used for angle. Mark that off. Next one, the intersection of the two sides of an angle is called its, so that's the same endpoint right here, it's called its vertex. Write that in there. So once again, the intersection of two sides of an angle, so that's basically where the two rays meet. The two sides meet is called the vertex. Next, the vertex of angle COD in the drawing above, talking about this drawing right here. So the vertex of angle COD in the drawing above is point blank. So you come over here, you see it's angle COD. So the vertex is where these two lines meet, which would be point O. So you put in an O there. Check these off now. All right, next one. The instrument used to measure angles is called a protractor. And that's what you see in this picture down here. So this is a little picture of protractor right here. So check that off in the box. Next one, the basic unit in which angles are measured is the degree. So if you're talking about measuring an angle, you would say it's 90 degrees or 30 degrees, something like that. So degree is the unit of measurement here. Next one, angle AOB has a measure of 90 degrees and is called a blank angle. That's going to be a right angle. Anytime you see 90 degrees, that's going to be a right angle. Number 7, an angle whose measure between 0 degrees and 90 degrees is an blank angle. So if it's less than 90, that's going to be acute angle. Once again, it had and, so we have to start with a vowel there. Number 8, two acute angles in the figure above are angle BOC and blank. So up here it's talking about this figure again. So it says BOC is an acute angle. The other one that's an acute angle is DOC. So we'll put in angle, that means angle right there. DOC. Check my answer. Okay. Next one, number 9. Angle whose measure between 90 degrees and 180 degrees is an blank angle. That's going to be obtuse. So once it's greater than 90, that's an obtuse angle. It has to be less than 180. We don't have this term on this paper here, but if it was 180 degrees, that'd be a straight angle. Number 10, an obtuse angle in the figure is blank. So you come back up here and look at this figure. It's going to be angle AOC. There's your obtuse angle there. So angle AOC. So we're halfway done with our answers down here. And if you look, we've done the vocabulary part. And down here, I've checked the things you've already used. Notice that what's left is all numbers. So you see these different angle measures down here. That's what we're going to use for our answers for the second part. Excuse me. So it says, for the second part, give the measure of each angle. So you see you've got your protractor here. It's got different degrees on it. And so we'll start to go back in and see which one of these answers can match up for these problems. So angle RQS. So you come over here and you look at angle RQS. So the biggest issue I see people have when they use this paper from year to year, when they try this paper, is they'll go back in and say, well, Mr. Junior, I see this ray is going through between 30 and 20. It's also going through between 150 and 160. And so they're confused as to what to put down for the number. Is it going to be, so between 20 and 30 would be 25. Between 150 and 160, halfway point would be 155. So they don't know which one to put. So I'll tell them, hey, look right here. I said RQS is what type of angle? Obtuse or acute? And they tell me it's acute angle. So I go back over to the measurements. I say, can an acute angle be 150 or 160? Or even between those two? And they say, no, it has to be less than 90. I say, so therefore, if it's an acute angle, you're using these numbers here. So the 20 and the 30. So halfway between that would be 25 degrees. Let me check that one out now. So that's how you can figure out which set of numbers to use. Another way you can kind of think about it is the bottom ray is pointing this way. So if your bottom ray is pointing this way, when you start to make the angle, you're coming up from where that bottom ray is. So you see I'm only coming up 25 degrees here. I'm not coming up 155 degrees. Next one, angle RQT. So RQT. Once again, that's an acute angle. So we're not going to be worried about the 110 and the 120. We're worried about the 70 and the 80 here. So RQT. I'm sorry, I said 78. I'm going to say 70 and 60. Looks like I didn't mean that last time. So between the 60 and the 70 here. So RQT. So if you look right here, you're at 60, and the 60, 1, 2, 3 is where that ray is going through. So 63 degrees. Check that one off. Next we have RQU. So right here, number 13, RQU. That one's going to be 90 degrees. Hopefully everybody can get that one. See it's the right angle. Check off my 90 over here. Next one, RQV. This time we're dealing with an obtuse angle. So RQV. So you know it's not going to be dealing with the 50 and the 60. It's going to be between the 120 and the 130. So that's going to be 125. My little degree sign. Let's see, check that one there. Next we got RQW. Once again, an obtuse angle. So that's going to be the 160, not the 20. This is an obtuse angle. It's 160 degrees. Oh, there it is. Next one, XQW. This time we're starting on this side. So XQW. That's going to be an acute angle. So that one's going to be using the 20, not the 160 there. So 20 degrees. Check out the 20. And then we got XQT. So XQT. That is an obtuse angle. It's past 90 degrees. Obtuse angle. So you're looking at between 110 and 120. Notice here that would be 115. Here's 110 and 120. 115, 116, 117. So we're looking for our final answer. And so the last one's a little bit tricky. This one's UQV. And people will get stuck on this one because it's not using the R or the X. Excuse me, cover. It's not using the R or the X as its bottom ray. And so over here it's saying UQV is what it wants to use for this angle. So obviously if they checked off their stuff, they see 35 as the answer. We talk about how they get 35. So over here, if you notice, you've got UQV. It's an acute angle. So 35 makes sense. And so the different ways they talked about getting their answer here. So one way is they say, okay, one of them's going through a 90. One ray's going through a 90. And one ray's going through a 55, or you can even say 125. Either way, if you said 90 minus 55, you would get 35 degrees. If you said, say you didn't use 55 here, say you used the 125 between 130 and 120, you did 125 minus 90, you still would get 35 degrees. So that's one way I've seen people figure it out. The other way I've seen them figure it out is they'll go from ray to ray and they'll count by fives. So remember, each one of these bigger marks is 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. And see, it's still 35 degrees after that angle. So different ways you can solve that final piece. So this is just kind of a review. I know some of you have done protractor stuff before, but those of you who hadn't done protractors, this is kind of a review of how to read a protractor, mixed in with some review for the vocabulary at the top. All right.